Are you ready to buy a home in Vegas? Think again. What if I told you that there were thousands of dollars of hidden costs that many buyers miss? From exorbitant fees to monthly charges, and people get stung. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to avoid it and know upfront exactly what you're getting into. My name is Alex Rivlin, and I've helped many buyers just like you navigate the rough seas of understanding the cost of getting into a home, how to lower those costs, maybe even get some concessions for other people to pay for them, and ultimately get the home you want on the terms that you want in the timeline that you want. If you have questions about the Las Vegas market and buying or selling a home, you can call me directly at 702-602-8001 or click on any of the links in the description below or DM me or leave a comment right here for everybody else to see so I can answer it and share it with the world. The number one set of fees that you're going to pay for are closing costs. Closing costs typically will range between 2 and 5%, and those include loan origination fees, underwriting fees, title and escrow fees, transfer taxes, upfront HOA fees, upfront property taxes, a little bit of advance payment, and anything else that might be related to inspections, appraisals, so on and so forth. Now, pro tip, a lot of these fees can be negotiated. Not all of them, but a lot of them can. So make sure that your agent has eyes on all of the paperwork and can make suggestions to you about how to help negotiate and mitigate some or all of those costs. Item number 2 is HOA fees. Now, HOA fees can be very tricky. Sometimes they're as low as $10 or $15. By the way, some homes have no HOAs, so sometimes you don't have to bother with those. And they could vary all the way up into hundreds or even thousands of dollars for condos with a lot of amenities. Now, there's also some upfront HOA fees, and it's not just the monthly. There are HOA transfer fees. In some of the retirement communities, there are NORA fees that could be 1/3 or 0.5% of the purchase price that help fund some capital improvements down the road and are considered a transfer and initiation fee. You have many different fees within the HOA to get everything set up and dialed in your name. Could be gate remotes and other things that come with the HOA. Now, when it comes to the actual monthly HOA fees, one thing to really keep in mind, and this is important, is what is important to you about the HOA and what is actually included. I've had people that have called me that have said, I don't want an HOA over $100. If you see a home or a condo with an HOA over $100, strike that. I don't even want to see it. When it comes down to the reality, however, they found that some of those HOAs include things that they would have otherwise paid for out of pocket. Maybe it's a gym membership, internet coverage, maybe it's even front yard maintenance. And when you look at that and you go, oh, well, I would have paid $80 for this and $60 for this and $100 for this, well, that's $240. So if the HOA fee was $275, is it really so bad? Now, one of the things to note, though, there might be things that are included with an HOA that you may have never actually purchased on your own. So while you could grant some value to that, let's say they have satellite television and you are more of a YouTube streamer, you've got Netflix, and maybe you even have some things that come with your cell phone plan so you don't even have to pay for them like Peacock or Paramount, and you're completely fine with TV. So you're looking at it thinking, oh, well, I'm going to save $120 on that satellite bill. If it's a bill you wouldn't have had, you're not saving anything. So if that HOA is $300 or $400, you can't really discount that $120. I mean, you certainly can, but is it really worth that value to you if you weren't going to get it anyway? So keep in mind when it comes to the HOA, to really look into it. What does it cover? What does it not cover? Is it saving you from other money out of your pocket? So is it a big expense or is it actually a smaller expense but consolidated into multiple things? You don't have multiple payments going out to multiple different places. Might actually be a convenience factor. Number 3 is property taxes and SIDS and lid fees. Now, a lot of people know exactly what property taxes are and very much expect them. There are a couple things to keep in mind with property taxes. In Nevada, one of the beautiful things about property taxes is we don't have a step-up basis, meaning that if you bought my home that I bought years and years ago, you're just going to take over the taxes where I have them right now. Now, do they go up annually? Yes, but they're capped. It's pretty low. It's a maximum 3% cap. So a home like mine, for instance, has about $4,500 in annual property taxes right now. However, if you bought the equivalent home to mine at what mine would sell for right now here in Las Vegas, you'd be paying closer to $15,000 in property taxes for a brand new home. Now, if somebody bought one, let's say in 2020, based on the 2020 prices, maybe that home was several $100,000 lower, and that one, even with the increases over the 5 years, instead of it being $15,000, it started at say $8,000, and maybe it's up to $9,000 at this point. So depending on the year built and what the actual purchase price was at the time of build is really what determines the basis for the property tax. Then you've got appreciation of the land and depreciation of the improvements, meaning everything above the land, the home itself, every year, and that's where the taxes start to inch up a little bit, but again, at a maximum percentage of 3% per year if it's your primary residence, 8% per year if it's an investment property or second home. Now, another important piece is SIDS and LIDs. So SIDS stands for Special Improvement District and LIDs are Local Improvement District. What that means is a community bought a plot of land and sewer, drains, water mains, and electricity was not a home run all the way to the land, it was to the street outside, and they have to bring that into that land. Now, the community itself pays for that, and instead of actually baking it into the price of the home, what they do is they keep the home at one price, they have the SID or LID, which everybody in the community pays for, and they share in the cost for that for bringing the utilities to the community. Now, what's important about that is sometimes people don't see that until way late. And back when I was in another real estate office, I had one agent that came up to me asking me how to handle something because it was towards closing and they didn't have all of the information, and it turned out that the SIDs were $17,000. Now, this can be paid on a quarterly or biannual or annual basis depending on the particular community. So it's not like it was a lump sum up front, but there was another home in the community where the previous homeowner had already paid them off. They didn't want the monthly payments, so they paid them off in full. And those homes comped about the same because the actual value of the home is the same. However, knowing that you have a $17,000 burden on one and the other one is free and clear of that might make a big decision when you're going to purchase that home. So make sure your agent is doing their job and researching and finding out exactly what the SID and LID payment and or balance is. It's not just about the payment, by the way. Also, the balance is very important because it could be a $500 payment on this house and a $500 payment on this house, but this one ends in 4 payments because there's only $2,000 left, and this one ends in 20 payments because there's $10,000 left. Again, if everything else was created equal, which one are you going for if you're getting the home at the same price? Now, another charge that's an ongoing charge are utility costs. Now, some of those, again, are charged up front. You're going to pay for trash in advance in your closing costs. You're going to probably pay some prorated sewer costs. Pretty nominal when it comes down to it, but here's a couple things to keep in mind. Electricity costs are continuing to go up, so you may want to find out exactly what the electric bill is on that home as a 12-month average. Now, what's really great is NVRE can give that to you. Now, agents could call in and can find out what the 12-month average is, and what's important is for that agent to ask what the lifestyle of the current homeowner was. If they were away at work all day and their kids were at school and they left the AC at a warmer temperature for a majority of the day and just kicked it on when they got home at night after things started to cool off a little bit, that might be a lot different than if you're going to be working from home. So keep that in mind when it comes to the electric bills, and also check into if there's solar, what you can do to reduce that electric cost overall. Now, another one is water. And because Vegas is a desert and water conservation is so utterly important, we really need to conserve water. And what they do is they make water somewhat punitive. There are tiered levels. So the more water you use, the more you actually pay. So tier 1 might be one rate, and let's just call it $1. And then by tier 4, you're paying $5 for that same, amount of gallons, right? 1 gallon for $1, 1 gallon for $5. That's not the actual rates, but I'm just giving you an idea. So once you break through certain tiers, it gets really expensive. So last year I actually had a leak at my house and I didn't know that there was a leak. My water bill was about $700, and it wasn't because I used 4.5 times as much water. I used about 2.5 times as much water, but I was at that higher tier where I was paying a lot more for water than what I would have paid at that lower tier. The next item is one that I did mention a little bit with closing costs, but it's those upfront fees that you might have to pay for out of pocket even before the closing cost. A lot of lenders will ask you to pay the appraisal fee up front. That is a fairly normal and typical scenario. You're going to pay a home inspector to inspect the home to make sure you're buying something great, or you could have that seller repair or give you some funds in lieu of repairs in advance. The one that is often overlooked and forgotten by people is an earnest money deposit. An earnest money deposit is basically good faith that you are going to move through the process swiftly and that you're serious about the home. I actually had a client a couple weeks ago that asked if they could do it with no earnest money. And the fact of the matter was the seller on this particular listing said absolutely not. Well, why is that? Why would a seller say no if they know that this buyer is fully qualified and really loves the house? Well, it's because they're going to take the home off of the market for you to do your inspections, and they may miss out on another opportunity. And if you decide to pull out, it's very easy for you. There's no risk. Now, earnest money is heavily protected. If you're doing things within due diligence and everything else, you're going to get your money back either way. However, the fact that it's put in escrow still gives a bit of safety and comfort to that seller to know that you're serious and you're willing to put a check. It does not go to the seller. It goes to the escrow company and it's held in trust until it's either transferred over to the seller or back to you if the home is canceled within the provisions of the contingencies that you have. However, it is overlooked, and oftentimes it's as little as 1%, but as much as 5%. Again, when you get into the more luxury homes, that's actually when it goes up. They want more money for that because you really are locking up a huge asset with a lot of money that is to bear there, and they want to know how serious you are. So on that $5 million home, it's very, very likely that they're asking for a $250,000 earnest money deposit. That wraps up pretty much all of the upfront fees, cost, and a lot of the ongoing hidden costs that some people get smacked in the face with. If you'd like a full walkthrough of what it's actually going to cost you to close on a home and what some of those fees and ongoing costs are going to be to you, as opposed to just doing a quick payment calculator on Google, please reach out. I would love to share with you exactly what I know from my experience and what's helped so many of my clients that are just like you when they're starting off on that home purchasing journey.